All right, Madam Chair, it's 5:30, so we can run through the agenda real quick and then let you get back to eating.
Great.
So item number 1 tonight is ratification of findings from last month. So as a reminder, that isn't a public hearing. And it'll be a separate motion from the consent agenda, but just kind of similar to the consent agenda. Item number 2, we will hear. It's continuation from last month. Item number 3, we will hear. Item number 4, we would propose for consent. Item number 5, we will hear. Item number 6, we would propose for consent. And item number 7, we would propose for consent.
Does anybody have any questions or issues with the proposed consent items?
I would like to hear number 4
Okay.
and number 6.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I don't have any issues with the consent agenda, but I will be recusing myself from item number 2 again, and then from item number 5 as well.
Okay.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Madam Chair, it's 6 o'clock. We can go ahead and get started.
Okay.
I did just want to make a quick announcement. Building 1, which is the building we're in, does not have any water. So if anyone in attendance needs to use a restroom, if you go out here, take a right and head over past the second set of elevators over there and go right. There's some public restrooms around the corner over there, but the public restrooms down the hall right here will not work. So
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Today is the 23rd of May, 2022. This is the scheduled time and place for the Historic Preservation Commission meeting. I am Chairperson Weaver, and I now call the meeting to order. Christina, will you please call the roll?
Otter,
Here.
Malloy,
Here.
Weaver,
Here?
Montoto,
Here.
Koski,
Here.
Cape,
Here.
Maroney, Kintai. 6 present, 2 absent.
Great, thank you. Josh, are we expecting anyone on virtual today?
Madam Chair, we do have a couple of applicants present virtually.
Oh, right, but no commissioners.
No commissioners,
Okay.
sorry, yeah.
Yep, sorry. Thank you. Have all commissioners had a chance to review the minutes from the April 27th meeting? Does anyone have any changes or comments to the meeting minutes? All right, hearing none, I will now take a motion on the April 27th, 2022 minutes.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I move to approve the minutes from the April 27th hearing.
okay. We have a motion from Commissioner Montoto. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, we have a second from Commissioner Otter. Christina, will you please call the roll?
Otter,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Weaver,
Aye.
Montoto.
Aye.
Koski,
Aye.
Cape,
I abstain. I was not present.
all in favor, motion carries.
Okay, great, thank you. I have been informed that actually, I'm sorry about that. That is not where we are. I believe that we have one possible item for the consent agenda tonight. That is item number 7, DRH 22-00155, Catherine Sewell. Is the applicant present?
This is Jade Stacy on behalf of the Smith Block LLC.
Okay, great. Thank you. Are you in agreement with the recommended conditions of approval?
I am, yes.
Okay, thank you. Was there any opposition to this matter?
Madam Chair, we did not receive any written opposition to this.
Okay, I have no one signed up here. Is there anyone present tonight wishing to testify against this matter? Great, seeing none, based on the representation of the applicant and the lack of opposition, item DRH 22-00155 will be placed on the consent agenda. I move that the consent agenda and the item on the consent agenda be approved, subject to all findings and conclusions and conditions of approval agreed upon for the application. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second from Commissioner Montoto. Christina, will you call the roll?
Otter,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Weaver,
Aye.
Montoto.
Aye.
Koski,
Aye.
Cape,
Aye.
all in favor, motion carries.
Great, thank you. We'll now move on to the remaining items on the agenda. The first item to be heard tonight is DRH 22-00097, discussion and ratification of findings for approval. This was approved at the April 27th, 2022 hearing. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that? Okay, great. And I don't ask, the applicant doesn't need to be here for that.
Madam Chair, no, this is not a public hearing.
Okay, great. All right, would somebody like to make a motion on that item?
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I move to accept the ratification of findings on item DRH 22-00097.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Montoto.
I can second.
Okay, a second by Commissioner Otter. Christina, please call the roll.
Otter,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Weaver,
Aye.
Montoto,
Aye.
Housekeeping,
Abstain.
Pape,
Aye.
all in favor, motion carries.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is item DRH 22-00086, Lorraine Fisher. Staff, can we please have the report?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. So last month, the applicant was before you for approval of a request to move a non-contributing structure from a property at 811 East McKinley Street. And additionally have the findings of a premature alterations report adopted. The commission requested that the applicant come back with a more detailed remediation plan. The applicant has provided that. They have also provided some conceptual renderings of what will be a future application for the residents. So the proposed residence will require a separate certificate of appropriateness application that will be evaluated by all the guidelines at that time, but they have provided some conceptual renderings for you tonight. So as a reminder, the property is located on the south side of McKinley Street. The existing non-contributing home, the process of moving it was begun without a certificate of appropriateness in place. And therefore, the applicant came before this commission to request that certificate of appropriateness. The site, there is that existing single-story home, which is in the process of being removed. So the applicant submitted a written remediation plan detailing what is landscaping, fencing, and dust and weed treatment and treatment of utilities on the site would be. The applicant states that the landscaping would remain as it is today, and the lawn and landscaping would be maintained until construction of the new home takes place. The fencing will remain the same as well, and the site will be kept weed-free until the construction of the new home takes place. Additionally, all utilities have been removed from the home already by the respective agencies. So the applicant submitted, and I believe he has some more information before you here tonight, just some conceptual drawings of the proposed residence. Again, it has not been submitted for a certificate of appropriateness application yet. With that, having submitted the remediation plan, we do recommend approval and find that it has met 3 of the 5 findings for demolition, and I would stand for any questions.
Thank you. Were you going to address the review or the notification process, notice process?
Madam Chair, that's actually on item number 5.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yep.
Okay, are there any questions for staff? Okay, great. Thank you. Is the applicant present? Will you please come forward and state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 20 minutes.
Tanner Layton, 811 East McKinley Street, Boise, Idaho, 83712. So Lorraine Fisher is the applicant. However, I'm speaking on her behalf as I am the homeowner. So we started off with this process of, so we started off with the process of having Lorraine sell the home. I originally had a contract with her that I even have an example as a PDF if we would like to show that it says the buyer is responsible for all permits and fees. I apologize for not following up to make sure that those steps were not properly taken. Now, since I have then taken over the ball and picked that up, we have made sure that all of the correct permits are required. All of the correct permits have been filed with sewer, water, power, Intermountain Gas. All of those respected agencies have had the correct permits and been removed. We would also like to state that this was my wife and I's family home. We do plan on building our forever family home. We are fortunate enough to have a 4-month-old son at home that we plan on being able to raise at this home and on this site. So with that, I put together just a quick presentation of the landscape, the fencing, and the conditions that Josh informed me, and I would like to first say thank you to Josh for informing me about the remediation plan, my first time being able to create one of those. And I handle all of the landscaping myself. If you guys saw in that overview of with the single family home of the existing site, there's quite a bit of other debris and such that was on the site when we purchased the home. That is now no longer there. The entire home is all sod, as you will see in our second slide, but I'll touch on this first one. Thank you, Josh. So all current fencing stays the same. It's a wood wrought iron. When the home mover started to move the home in before getting the permit, which we do understand and we apologize again for, we made sure to save all of the wrought iron panels, any of the wood panels, anything along those lines. So until we are able to start with construction on our new home, which I did 2 weeks ago, reach out to Josh to see if we would be able to attach our future application to this one. He did inform me that no, we will have to be filing out a new application for the new home. So that's why tonight we're just hoping to be able to get the council's approval to get that home moved, because we will be filing an application for our new home. And so you can see on the last bullet point I have, with the Historic Preservation Society approval, home will be moved, new home application filed, and the projected to be on the July hearing, as Josh informed us that we had just missed the deadline for making your guys' June hearing. And so that's why I also wanted to make sure and be able to send you guys some conceptuals. And I also have some more documents as well that you will see at the end of this presentation. Thank you. So here you can see the backyard. So this is a full sod backyard with a concrete slab. Concrete slab will stay in place. That is not being touched. All of that wood paneling, all of that fencing will stay. That is the backyard. That then you have the alley, and on my west of our lot is my neighbor's fence. That fence is also wood paneling. That will not be affected either. Next slide, please. So this is the front of the home. What you can see is it is also fully sod, fully maintained. I maintain it. I actually just mowed it. So these are pictures that I took last week that I will continue to maintain the home. I take care of all of our landscaping, and all of those pots, they will be removed. My wife made sure and tell me that those will not be going anywhere. So we will take those pots back with us, but then all landscaping will also be there. And this is taken up against the wrought iron fencing that we have out front. And this is our final one. This is the back alley. You can see that I even maintain the back alley fencing. So I know that weeds and dust was a worry. And so because of that, I even mow and maintain the back fencing. You can see where my fencing is a little bit of that more brown color. Then it goes to my neighbors with the red, that I make sure and maintain even the alley weeds as well. Thank you. So this is our Mckinley Residence. We have started with JLE architecture. I reached out to my architect before coming to this hearing to make sure and see that we were going to be able to submit in the next 2 to 3 weeks. He said yes. So we have gone through 3 revisions. We are not asking for any variances. We are aware of 15-foot setbacks off the alley for a garage. We're aware of a 20-foot setback off of the front. We are following and adhering to all of those. You can see that we will be building our home, and also with COVID and everything that took place, I work from home. So there is an office there as well, and a 2-car garage off the alley. So we are very excited to be able to propose this new build, this new home, and raise our family in the East End. We love the East End. My wife and I are both born and raised in Idaho. And I can tell you that the individuals in the family that we purchased this home for, they were the grandparents of one of my great friends that I was in his wedding. And so we were able to purchase this family home from them knowing that we were also going to be raising our family in it as well. My wife and I, we rehabbed the current structure on the home over the last 2 years. And that's where we are very fortunate to be reselling it to someone as home prices are rising and everything, so that it can get repurposed on someone else's lot. I know that we do not have a full set of plans, but I wanted to make sure and share this with you guys, since we will be having to file a second application for the new build as well. And I will stand for any questions.
I have a quick question for you.
Madam Chair.
You noted all the utilities have been disconnected from the house. How are you watering and maintaining the landscaping?
So right now we have a sprinkler system that was in place. We turned off the water. And so we have been very fortunate with a very wet spring right now. And because of that, that is why we're maintaining the green. And that is how I'm currently watering it. If it needs to be in place, I have spoke to my neighbor that she would allow me to run a sprinkler, with her words, as long as we get that house moved. So
So you're saying you're currently watering it with the rain that comes down from the
yes,
sky?
ma'am. Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, great. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. You'll have time for rebuttal at the end. Is the Registered Neighborhood Association here to testify? Thank you. Please state your name and address, and you have 20 minutes.
Okay, my name is Sheila Grisham, 1204 East State Street, Boise, 83712. And I just want to say that I appreciate that Tanner and his new plans are looking at the setbacks and trying to follow some of the guidelines. And also, I'm a little uncomfortable with the plans not being in place first before they're being approved, but so long as that is being done prior to actual approval, I'm okay with that. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We don't have anybody signed up today, but is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak? Okay. Great, thank you. All right, applicant, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal if you'd like to come back up.
I'll just say I'll stand for any questions.
Are there any additional questions? Okay, I think we
you.
are out of questions. Thank you very much. Okay, I will close the public portion of the hearing and consider a motion or discussion.
Madam Chair, I'll just start off by saying, reminding us as a commission, what we're voting on here, we're not voting on anything new, not on any new plans, any of those concepts he showed us. That is a completely separate vote. So we're just voting on the plan that he put forth to take care of the property right now. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Koski. Is there any other comments?
I would just like to say I'm glad, even though this was a non-contributing home and the process wasn't followed, I am glad that it's not ending up in the landfill. I'm glad you're selling it and moving it and somebody else can use it. So thank you for that.
I agree. Any other comments?
Madam Chair, just a reminder that I will be recusing myself from
Oh,
this item.
great. Thank you.
I know we're not voting on the plans. I kind of wish we were seeing the plans though as part of this, because I feel like the fact that they didn't follow the process leads me to want to see a full picture of what we're getting ourselves into, not just the remediation portion of it. But I guess we'll see that in July when it comes back.
Yep, great. I guess my only kind of thoughts and concerns are I do appreciate the new plan and providing that information and that you will be reusing the house. I'm a little concerned that there's no way to water the grass, and I guess, you know, because we are in a drought, if it gets, you know, it's brown and the sprinkler doesn't work out, and maybe that's okay, but you know, as long as we're trying to maintain any trees and any bushes or things that will be on there for a long period of time, just want to make sure that that happens. So with that, would somebody like to make a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll move that for approval of DRH 22-00086 for the conditions and staff report.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Koski.
I'll second that.
Okay, and a second by Commissioner Malloy. Christina, can you please call the roll?
Otter,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Weaver,
Aye.
Kowski,
Aye.
Pape,
Aye.
all in favor, motion carries.
Great, thank you. We'll now move on to the next item, which is item number 3, DRH 22-00110, Aaron Sorensen at 1902 North 7th Street. Is the applicant present? Great, thank you. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 20 minutes.
Madam Chair.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Josh,
that's all right.
gosh.
That's all right. It's all good.
I'm sorry. You probably knew you were supposed to do that first. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. So the applicant before you tonight is to request to alter the character defining facade of a contributing home in the north end at 1902 North 7th Street. The property is a corner lot, has had some additions constructed over the years. In 2010, an attached street-facing garage onto 7th Street was constructed, and then there is a detached accessory garage and ADU on the rear of the property with an access facing Brombach. So the existing structure, you can see here the attached single-car garage on the left-hand side of the home. The status is contributing even with the addition of that addition. And the applicant has requested to remodel the home by converting that single car garage into some living space. That overhead door facing 7th Street would be removed. They are proposing a new entrance on that portion of the home and then connecting it to the interior of the existing home with a double locking door. You can see here on the floor plan, the bedroom that was labeled bedroom, and then the bath and closet, that is the former garage space. The entrance facing 7th Street seen there, and then also the connection to the existing home, which is proposed again to be that double locking door. Proposed elevation with some steps up to that door, and then some windows on that elevation as well. In the project report, we did recommend that front-facing entrance be eliminated. It poses a couple of concerns. Number one, that it would be uncharacteristic of a historic structure to have 2 front doors for a single-family home. Number two would be that it really is, while it's kind of falls in the gray area of what we consider an ADU, it certainly could be classified as an ADU. It has a separate primary entrance and it is completely sealed off from the existing main structure with that double locking door. The property already contains an ADU in the detached garage structure, and you are only allowed 1 ADU in Boise City Code. So based on those 2 concerns in the project report, we did recommend that street facing entrance be eliminated, and that as a condition of approval. The applicant is here tonight. I believe has some further information to present on the necessity of that entrance, and I would stand for any questions.
Are there any questions for staff? Okay, great. Thank you, Josh. Okay, now you may come up. Please state your name and address for the record. You have
Thank
20
you.
minutes.
Aaron Sorensen, my address is 2999 West Moore Street. And I'd like to invite my associate Naya Church from Ethos Design Remodel to join me as well today for the presentation. She's the principal designer for our company, and she's been with this project from day one.
Great. You can share the 20 minutes between the two
Between
of you.
the two
Yeah.
of us. Okay. And then how do I advance the slides? Just point at you? Oh, I'm good at this. All right, so it's time. So really the goal of this remodel is to improve the livability of the existing structure. So the existing home is a 1-bedroom, 2-bath home where the primary bedroom is actually located in the basement. So if you remember from the picture before, you actually have to walk up some pretty interesting set of stairs to get into the main part of the house. And then if you were to like just walk straight in and want to go to bed, you'd have to go down a very steep, narrow staircase. And that would be how you would go to bed. So our family who lives in this home, it's a family of 3. They're actually utilizing what was originally intended to be a closet space as a bedroom for some occupants of this home. So you'll get to see that here soon. And also, I think a really important piece to know about this project is the garage was not a historically contributing piece of this structure. It wasn't even in place when the survey was done of this unit. So here is the existing floor plan for the basement level of this home. And you can see there's a bedroom, there's a pretty big size closet, and then a primary suite bathroom. So that's the existing conditions, and there's really a family of 3 sleeping in this area. No privacy door either. I don't know how they do it. So the existing site plan, we have quite a lot of parking. Some of it's non-conforming, but we do have 2 conforming parking spots just on the pad alone. And that was something that the city acknowledged there was adequate parking there. When we began this project, it was many months prior to right now. And one thing that has been a challenge for our team is the original historic planner that we worked with said, easy peasy, this is adding a bedroom to this home. And this is like a staff level approval. And through this process over the last few months, that like certain decisions and things that we thought to be true upfront have changed. So we've been very reactionary in our design. Usually we like to come to the table with something that we know is going to be exactly as it is as we get through it. But we were really quite surprised with the more recent planning report that said that this could be an ADU after we really emphasized that this is a bedroom. Then there's some design challenges with this bedroom, and I'll kind of take you through those iterations here when I hand this over to Naya. Another important thing to note is our homeowners have been very good about being good neighbors. Before the project ever started, they went around, they talked to everyone in the surrounding area and got signatures of approval. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Naya.
And please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Naya Church, principal designer for Ethos. We're at 2999, I said too many of those, West Moore Street in Boise. When we first started this project, some of the challenges that we had was the slope inside the garage and where the plumbing comes into from the main house, because we don't want to dig up a bunch of existing things, and we put the bathroom where it is, which is in the back of the garage, allows the most cost-effective as well as less disruption to the structure by being able to access the plumbing and the existing plumbing that's there. So the remodel is going to have new paint, new trim, new floor, an added bedroom and a closet. And the storage closet, that's basically a storage closet. And we have to have a crawl space access because of the slope and the topography of where, and I'll show you an elevation of that, which kind of explains it. Okay, which one is it? Thank you. Okay, so this is the proposed floor plan and the existing. You can see the top one is the garage, and the other one is the proposed bedroom. One of the things that's important in here is early on, we talked about, well, what happens if I'm here long-term and I'm in a wheelchair or walker? The steps up to this house are very steep, et cetera. So we actually designed a plan that showed an L-shaped ramp at a 1 to 12 pitch that allows a wheelchair to go up and into that space at the door without any steps as a future idea. So we've actually gone down that path, hence why we also have a door there, because in the future, I think it would make better sense. What else am I missing here? Okay, these are just two of many reiterations that we went over and over again. By having the bedroom, the top one, it shows the bedroom and a bathroom configuration and a back door, still having to access stairs up or through the front door, not having a good access to get furniture in or access if, you know, they were impaired. The bottom one is another one that was rejected. And the reason for that rejection is by the time we put a door there at that grade level, you have that many steps up and a very difficult time with much left for a bedroom. And then you have you have to put in a railing so you don't fall into the stairwell that's there. And then you climb again to the main level. We didn't think that was a good solution either. And there were other reiterations, but this kind of shows you what's there. Safety is important. And them having a bedroom for themselves would be nice. So this is the existing basement that's called the bedroom. They're living in the closet. You can see the closet over there. That's kind of the bedroom at this point. I don't think it's very conducive for a family not to have their own personal spaces. There's no proposed change, excuse me, go back to that. There's no proposed changes in the basement. This is a copy of what this structure looked like historically and what it looks like today. The garage has been added and has been pushed back from the face of the house. So we really didn't feel like a doorway there was saying that it was not the entrance. They literally have their door painted bright green to me, which says, here I am, and this is our front door. And it has the pillars. We're not putting a portico over that front door, nor are we putting pillars, et cetera, like most historic houses have. Here is the view. And again, that's at the elevation. We have to come up so many steps to get there. That ramp would come down. It actually equals about, if you put a ramp in there, it equals about 4 actual steps up to that doorway. The other oops, did it again. Is that the right one? Yeah, okay. This is what it looks like right now. The other elevation, that's existing. Yes, please.
Point out, so in the original plans of the rear elevation, they actually showed the door being centered.
And it's not.
But it's not. It's to the. It's
built way over to the left. Yeah, and that was from the archived plans. This is where the issue comes in. We have a slope that starts at underneath where that toilet is. It does, and to level that out, we go up that many steps to get there. It actually equals about 4, because it goes like 17 inches, I want to say, to the subfloor and 9 inches to the back. But it also allows us to get the plumbing in and connected through the construction wall or the foundation wall of the existing structure and right into the plumbing, which makes better sense. And that's why we have the door where it is. This is, whoops, where'd it go? Did I do it wrong? This is the existing, this is the opposite side, and it shows where the siding is, because inside the garage that you see the siding that's existing, and we're not touching that. We are closing one small window in there that looks into the house. That is the door up into the house, and that is being accessed, and it's a small door. It's only going to be like 2'4", I want to say. It's very small, if that, because we're accessing the existing window space that was there, which is a small, like a clear story. So we use the same header. So it's not like you can get furniture through that door. You can get a person through that door. Hope I'm not missing this stuff. Here. Yeah, there we go. It's like, there's a lot in my brain.
So this is the 3rd project that we've had on 7th Street in the last year within the historic district. It's quite a bit different than the other 2 projects that we've had, but our ethos remains the same. We want to work. We want to be the first folks that people think of when they think of historic preservation done right, working in small spaces with a lot of constraints. And our team's just really good at that. We have wonderful principal designers, but we also have finished carpenters that can deal with the challenges that come with working on historic homes and recreation and fixing and patching and using the Bondo and all the things that you have to do. Being lead certified, which this is a new structure essentially that we're working within. So when we called up our lead paint folks who go and scan the home, they were like, are you guys special? Like, this is brand new. We don't have to do anything here. And we were like, oh yeah, you're right. This is brand new. So we're really happy that the Francums chose us to work on this project, and we hope to do many more along 7th Street in the future. Really, in summary, like we've done the homework on this project, and I know we showed you 2 of our failed proposals, but there's many more behind that, that we tried as many iterations as possible. And it's for this structure to live well into the future, we need to think about who's going to be there later, not just the folks who are here today. And it might be someone with a 90-year-old grandmother who needs to get into this home and stay the weekend. And going up a couple steps versus the current scenario would be a much better and higher use of the structure. So accessibility is a really key thing with this home and making it have a very long life. Also, I like giving the family who lives there now some privacy, so their teenage son can shut the door. Would be really cool. And also making sure that everyone's living in a legal bedroom is a very important part of this project. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. It was a very good presentation. Are there any questions for the applicant? Okay.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Okay, Commissioner Koski.
With your homeowner, when they approached you about this project, was accessibility, or I guess wheelchair accessibility, one of the key components?
It actually was, and I don't remember the exact scenario, but they have 2 older children, and then there's been folks who have come, family members who are elderly, who literally had to stay in the basement overnight. So it was a component of the project from the get-go.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Otter.
There are 2 doors, it looks like, with access from the back of the existing living room utility area. Are those not, you can add a ramp to either of those?
Yeah, that area was really out of scope, I guess. It wasn't a part of our area of emphasis for the project, so we haven't done any work there.
One of the other issues about that is when the homeowners bought this property, there was an existing ADU.
You just need to move a little bit closer to the microphone.
When the
There you go.
homeowners bought this property, there was an existing ADU there. They bought it as is there. They have tenants back there, and the tenants walk on the side of that garage to get where they're going, in and out on the streets. So they didn't want to have their door on the back into their courtyard of where the ADU is. So it added more privacy. And also when we put one of the designs we showed that door there, what happens is it's not very accessible once that door is there to come up those stairs and be able to try to get furniture around and still have a walkway between the bathroom and those stairs. It's really tiny. And it to me, is not appropriate for that. Go back to that one.
It's one of the first ones.
No, it's one of the get rid of ones.
So we can see the existing.
Oh, where? Oh, yeah. Yeah. So then you go up, we have to climb up to the main level there. And it's difficult to get a bedroom and a bathroom in there in that kind of configuration. Accessibility wise, it doesn't provide the standards of universal design with the turnaround and that type of stuff where the other does. I hope I answered your question.
And actually, you can see this really well on the existing plans. So to access this area, there was really only one logical place for a door, and it's very highly constrained between a set of stairs and the existing bathroom. And there's an opportunity to use that existing window to open the space without really having an impact on the contributing structure.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Madam Chair, I have a question. What's your plan for landscaping in front of the garage? Are you going to be pulling off all of that concrete and putting down sod? What do you have planned?
If we did landscaping in front of it, if we did landscaping in front of it, we have to preserve our parking spot as well. But if we can eke out a little space in front of it, it would be very nice to do like a little arbor, potted plants, not a greenscape because the concrete exists, it's all there. So we could, we talked about maybe putting like a privacy arbor or something like that that have growies on it, potted plants, maybe a place to set out front. Which would be very nice, but we are very aware that we have to reserve how much parking space we have too. But there still is actually 3 parking spaces out there with where all the concrete is. So we could come out to the length of that house, which is about 10 foot. It's kind of sets back there and actually get a very nice little patio space there. We could treat it with pavers. We could, we could do a lot of things there that could look quite nice, I think. And also it would make it feel a little bit less like that wasn't the front door because there is a little garden space. But, this is kind of the bare bones.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I have another question. And I don't know if, Josh, you can pull up this picture in the packet. I have a question for you guys. I'm trying to figure out what this picture is. So it's in our packet, it's the 3rd picture. It looks like it's the back of the house. It shows a ceiling with a light on it, and there's one door. And I want to know what door that is.
I believe that's the existing door going into the garage, but.
Yeah, yeah, Commissioner Koski, just 1 second, trying to get this to work.
All right. Yeah, that one right there. So can I ask you guys which door that is on the existing home?
That's the back door.
Yeah, that's the existing rear door. And I think this is a great photo too, because it demonstrates how low the ceiling actually is there. And so once we raise the floor up for the required slope in the plumbing, there's actually not room for a door there anymore, if that makes sense. Not on this porch area, but on the interior of the garage, it's higher up.
It's also the pathway that the tenants use. So they come down the side of the garage and then go this way, and then they go that way. They make this little L shaped. So so that's really where the shower.
Maybe speak in the microphone.
I'm sorry. This is where the tenants will walk, and then they turn towards where the light is. Plus on the side of the garage there, they walk. So that garage door is where the shower will be. So that this again gives us more privacy in this area.
So that door will be removed. That's being removed.
Yeah, it's a metal man door right now.
That goes into the back of the garage.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you for clarification.
Uh-huh.
All right, are there any more questions? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is the Registered Neighborhood Association here to testify?
Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Thank you, Kate. Please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 20 minutes.
Wonderful. Thanks, Madam Chair. Kate Henwood, 1116 North 12th Street. Yeah, the headline of this project was a little bit confusing, or maybe even felt a little misleading when it said I guess just the wording of, a change to the character defining facade. Since, the home, which is the contributing structure itself, is not being modified at all. And it does seem that the garage could be removed entirely from the home and not affect its status. So for that reason, we're not concerned about the project or making changes to the garage. I would say we are in support of the general idea behind this project. I will say that this discussion about the door, the second door, and it then becoming an ADU is throwing me for a loop a bit. I guess I'm still not completely clear on what constitutes an ADU. I guess, we don't want to run afoul of ADU regulations. So I suppose on this point, we will look to the HPC for guidance on that point. And I guess just leave it as we do support the conversion of the garage to a bedroom and bathroom. And that's it.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. Thank you very much. We have a few people signed up to testify today. The first person on the list is Teresa Franco. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Teresa Franco. I live at 1902 North 7th Street. So my husband, David, and I were the owners of this home. So I just wanted to introduce myself and David. I'm a teacher. David works for the Forest Service. So when he got the job with the Boise National Forest, we were really excited to move to Boise. And after visiting, our son said, "Can I please go to Boise High School?" So we were on the search to find a house in that area, and we did, and we love it, and we're really happy being here. But the main reason for our proposition is to make the garage his bedroom. If the double locking door is confusing, we don't have to have a double locking door. Our research on what constitutes an ADU came up with it had to have a kitchen and a bathroom and a separate entrance. So we weren't designing an ADU, we're designing a bedroom for our son. The reason we did put a full bathroom is because the only other shower is in the basement, which is the master bedroom. So we just thought it made sense for our teenager to have his own shower, so he's not coming in and out of ours. So I guess the main question is the door, and it does just really make sense to have a man door, I guess they're called, in the front, because that door we're opening into the house, because we definitely wanted that to be his main access to his room, not his own like apartment that he gets to come and go from. It's really like 2 feet and a couple inches wide, so it would be really hard to get stuff in and out of there. So that's why we wanted a door on the front, just mainly for accessibility. And also the accessibility for future purposes. My dad had just had a knee surgery and a hip replacement, so it would be nice to have less stairs for him. Honestly, that's a side benefit. We really just want a bedroom for our son. I guess that's it. I just wanted to introduce myself and tell you our main reason for this. And yes, the back door that exists is going to be closed in because that's where we have to put the bathroom because of the plumbing access. Otherwise, that would have been a fine place to keep the door. Does anyone have any questions about the design? I know they flipped through it really quick, and I know the house, so I could tell what was going on, but I can understand if that was confusing. I can answer any questions about the home or.
Are there any questions?
It has all been remodeled when the garage was put on. So yeah, the basement is like the master bedroom. And so our son has his like mattress in the front part and we're in the back part. So it works, but he doesn't love it.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
And then David Franco, would you like to Please state your name and address for the record, and you will also have 3 minutes.
Yep, David Franco, 1902 North 7th Street. So I'm current owner with my wife, Teresa, and we actually have 3 kids. I just want to point that out. We have 2 kids in college. So it'd be great when they come home as well to have some extra space to put them on the floor or to have an extra bed or a cot in there. So that's an additional space that we need. Like my wife mentioned, we are active participants in the community of Boise. I like your motto, for the greatest good. I work for the Forest Service, the greatest good for the greatest number. So it'd be great to have a bedroom for our son, and that'd help out the greatest number. And I just want to thank you for your time looking at our proposal. We did design it. I took the time to read all of the city of Boise's historic regulations, as well as your building permitting regulations, and the ADU thing came up, and we designed it purposely to meet the intent of not making it an ADU, which it states a kitchen is required. We don't have a kitchen as part of that, just to avoid the whole perception of maybe we're designing another apartment or space for a home. That is not the intent. Like we said, we need a bedroom. And he's been in that space for a year now. And like Aaron mentioned, we're already been pushed back a couple times. We're trying to be patient. I'm not necessarily the most patient individual, and Aaron and Ethos can attest to that, because this has been kind of frustrating. And so I'm hopeful that we can get some approval here to move forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you. We don't have anybody else signed up to testify. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come up and speak? Or online? Great, thank you. Are there any last 1-minute questions for staff?
I have a question for Josh. How many required parking spots do they need to have for this house?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Malloy, so they're required 2 off-street parking spaces for a single-family residence. The ADU does not require an extra space because it is a not 2-bedroom, so just 2.
I guess I have a question too. Is the defining factor of an ADU really the kitchen? Is that what it is?
Madam Chair, I wish I had a better answer.
Okay.
Code does not specify what constitutes an ADU. We do have a policy. We have conflicting policy memos from past directors. In 2004, a shower constituted an ADU. More recently, it does require a kitchen. I think when we look at ADUs, it's kind of a smell test if it could be used as an ADU or not. I think if they're willing to eliminate that locking door, not an ADU, add a condition of approval says it won't be used as an ADU, that's just fine.
Okay, great, thank you. Are there any other questions for staff? Okay.
Can I ask a clarifying question? It's in the policy, your definition for an ADU states like 4 requirements. So I just want to point that out, and maybe I want to revisit your policy, get that clear so folks take the time to read it, understand what an ADU is.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that goes a little bit beyond what the Historic Preservation Commission. So I think that's something you might want to discuss further with the city and have that looked at within the city code. Okay, well, you can come back up, and you have 5 minutes as the applicant for rebuttal if you'd like to come up. You're good? Okay. Okay. Did anybody have any last minute questions for the applicant?
I do have another question for you. It's back to the parking situation. Do you need that front parking spot in front of the house? If it's not required, Josh just said that you only need 2 parking spots, and you have one in the ADU in the back and one or another one from the back.
I feel like that's a question for the owners. They currently park up front. We had an open house yesterday, and we swung by and took a photo, and they were parked there. So I would assume for easy access, they would like to preserve one of the spots there indefinitely. But I think that's a personal question for the owners.
Okay, and then I have another question. Would they be open to doing like screening in front of the current garage if we were to keep the access door of like landscape?
We had a landscape proposal. We came down to just the cost of
If you could come up to the mic,
Yeah.
that would be great, just for those online. Thank you.
We're open to landscaping solutions. We had a whole landscape design that was part of the initial proposal that we pulled out just because the estimate came back too high. And the issue for us, yeah, we're open to entertaining landscaping options. The issue is you have a driveway leading up to a garage, which we fully acknowledge, and walking through the neighborhood, you see only a couple of those around, right? But we do need some parking. That's the parking that's with the home at this point in time. The ADU parking would be extremely dangerous. I'll just point that out. The city permitted that and allowed it, but that's on a blind curve. Traffic coming out off of Brumbach from up high there, that's high density housing. There's apartments up there, all kinds of homes. Tons of traffic comes through there 30 miles per hour or faster. So I don't think it'd be wise for us to utilize that parking. So it's not being utilized.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the applicant? Okay, great. Thank you very much. I will now close the public portion of the hearing and consider a motion or discussion.
Madam Chair, I'll start with some discussion. It looks like, well, as far as the parking goes, I'm not concerned about that. They need 2 parking spaces. So they have an ADU on the property and they have 2. They got the one in front of their existing garage and one in front of their ADU. So that's their 2 spots. So I think those need to stay. So I'm not worried about that. As far as it being considered a ADU, I don't know that I'm concerned about that either at this point. What I am concerned about is having 2 front entrances on the front of a contributing house. And I agree with the staff report recommending that the door and windows be taken out and that the garage door be filled in with siding, because I don't believe that 2 entrances on the front of a contributing house meets the guidelines. So as far as my comments go, I would approve I would vote for approving the staff based on the conditions of the staff report for approval. But it's not a motion, just discussion at this point.
Thank you, Commissioner Koski. Is there any other comments?
Yeah, I'm not bugged by the second door on the front since the garage is, it's an addition. And I think if you could use some kind of landscape screening that you wouldn't know to walk up to that door, I think it's pretty clear that the front door is the one that you would knock if you were going to their house. There's lots of houses built in the 40s that have a garage attached and have a man door. We're just eliminating the garage door. So I think screening of that area with landscaping would be an easy fix. And you could still have that accessibility.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
Yes, I would agree with Commissioner Malloy on this. And so she wanted to propose a recommendation based on that. And that would work for me.
Madam Chair, I would echo Commissioner Otter on that.
Okay, great. Would you like to make a motion?
Sure. I motion to approve DRH 22-00110 with the original proposed front door and window, with the condition that there is some sort of screening in front of the door, landscape screening in front of the door.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, a second by Commissioner Montoto. Christina, can you please call the roll?
Otter,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Weaver,
Aye.
Montoto,
Aye.
Koski,
Nay.
Pape,
Aye.
5 in favor, 1 opposed. The motion carries.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, the next item on our agenda is DRH 22-00123, Jeffrey Wallace. Staff, can we please have the report?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. The applicant has requested to alter the character defining facade of an existing single-family home, 1604 North 9th Street in the north end, and is a contributing structure. The property is located on the corner of Sherman and 9th. And the existing home has a front porch that wraps around to an addition on the side of the home that was constructed outside of the period of significance. And the applicant has proposed to widen the front door to center the porch, the gable above the porch on the new front door, and widen the existing steps shown in the elevations here. Staff did recommend approval of the application, and I would stand for any questions.
Okay, are there any questions for staff?
I do have a question. Josh, what are your reasons for recommending approval on these changes?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Montoto, that the changes were not significant. The structure has been altered since the contributing survey with the addition on the side of the home and the wrapping front porch. The widening of the home is the widening of that front porch is proportional to the home. It does provide for a front door which meets accessibility standards. The existing front door is very narrow. It's a 2.4, I think. This widens the front door to something that's more accessible and maintains the proportions of the home.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any additional questions for staff?
Madam Chair, I have a question for staff. What's the material that's going to be used for the front door?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Otter, I will let the applicant address that, but I do believe that it's a full glass front door.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I have another question for Josh. It looks like the application is replacing all the windows and the doors. And they're changing some windows that are street facing on the side and turning it into a sliding door. Is that, I'm just wondering what the reason what your thoughts were on that as far as approving that.
Yeah. Madam Chair, Commissioner Koski, so the applicant is replacing all of the home has vinyl windows. So they are replacing all of those vinyl windows with an appropriate product for the district. So we recommend approval.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question. Sorry, Josh. If it's a full, I know we don't know the material yet, but what's the city's stance on the front door being a full glass door? It's not really appropriate for this time period. It wasn't really prominent until the 50s and 60s. So why wouldn't it be a paneled wood door? I mean, I've seen a lot of inappropriate doors in our historic district. So I'm just wondering if that's just.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Malloy, I'd have to look at the guidelines and see if there is specific guidance on the type of door. But I would leave that to the commission. I'll let the applicant address that as well.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Great, thank you very much. Is the applicant present?
Good evening, commissioners. This is Kirsten Wallace. Can you hear me?
We can. Please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 20 minutes.
Thank you very much. My name is Kirsten Wallace. I'm with Wallace Construction LLC, Wallace Custom Design and Renovation. I'm here representing the applicant. And I think that the description, first of all, is a little bit misleading as to the intent of this project. And For example, the current faux roof element, basically the triangle over the front door. If you look at page 8 of the packet, you can see that it's off center and it's positioned to the, I guess, as you're facing the front facade, to the left of the columns. And we want to shift the faux roof element to the right as you're looking at the house. So we're moving it 16 inches to the center so that it's centered over the columns. And Josh, I don't know if you can bring up page 28 of the packet, which is the historic photograph, but you can see that the original front facade had that faux roof element centered over the columns. And again, that is what the application proposes to do. Thank you, Josh. So in that picture where the original home is depicted, the faux roof element is centered over the 2 front columns. So that's the first element of the change to the front facade. The second element is the change to the steps, making them 10 inches wider, so 5 inches on either side to accommodate a handrail. Currently, the front egress does not meet code without a handrail. So the proposal is to add one. And again, you can see the historic photograph had a handrail at that front facade. And during the course of renovations, it was removed. The material on the front steps, as they are currently built, is to remain the same. The door is currently a 2.6 door. It's not ADA compliant, nor is it code compliant. The standard is a 3.0 door, and we are proposing a 3.6 door. It will be, the door opening will be enlarged to comply with code, and it will be a metal clad wood door sourced from Pella. The anticipation is that the grid pattern of the front door is going to be symmetrical with the grid pattern of the windows that are proposed to be replaced. All of the windows are going to, again, be metal clad wood. So I heard mention that the concern about replacing the windows. During a previous renovation, not by Wallace, all of the windows were replaced with vinyl windows, none of which are approved by historic preservation standards. So Wallace is proposing to replace all of the windows for the existing structure with metal clad wood windows by Pella. It was also important for the front facade to keep the symmetrical look of that front facade. So again, that was part of the design considerations. And I think, Josh, are you able to pull up the picture or the rendering of the front facade? Great, thank you. You can see that we've tried, the design tries to ensure that the symmetrical nature of the windows in relation to the door, including the windows on the added part, which is the part that you're looking straight on to the right, are all symmetrical and present a uniform appearance for that block face when you're walking up to the home. If you look at the east elevation down below, there is, again, all of these windows are proposed to be replaced with metal clad wood windows by Pella. I just also want to mention that the existing structure as it currently stands, other than the front facade, I guess, it's difficult to discern what was original and what wasn't. I suppose if you took off the entire wing addition, you could bring the house back to its original intent, but it now has a fully added covered porch, which wasn't part of the original design. So at least Wallace's intent and the homeowner's intent is to restore some aspects of this home to its original or at least the historic preservation standards, to make the windows and current doors, or windows and doors, conforming to what the guidelines expect. With that, I'll stand for questions. I also have Jeff Wallace, the contractor, who is going to be doing the renovations here with me to my right, and he's available to answer any questions that the commissioners may have. And with that, I'll close my presentation.
Great, thank you very much. Are there any questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair, I have some questions.
Okay, Commissioner Koski, go ahead.
For either one of you, I guess the question I have first of all is just confirming that's a 2668 door that's existing on the front. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Your plans say differently, so I just wanted to confirm that.
Oh, apologies.
The plans say it's a 2.8 door, so just wanted to confirm that. Also, you mentioned accessibility, and what's needed for accessibility is a 3.0 door, correct? Or larger?
That's my understanding, correct.
Okay. I do want to note, I guess, that there's 2 3.0 doors on the back of the house and on the other portions of the house. So do you feel that you need a third 3.0 door for accessibility?
Well, for the front door, I believe, yes, you do.
Okay. That's all the questions I have for now, Madam Chair.
Okay, great, thank you. Are there any additional questions for the applicant?
I have one, Madam Chair. Is that a sliding glass door on the side of the house? And is that replacing an existing door, or is that just replacing windows in the rendering?
Can you say that again on the, are you referring to the
On page
east
6.
elevation?
Yeah, if you look on page 6, it's the east elevation.
The question is a sliding door.
Can you repeat the question?
Is that a sliding glass door, or is that replacing existing windows or replacing an existing door? I couldn't tell from the other pieces in the packet.
That is going to be a sliding glass door, and I believe it is replacing existing windows.
Yep. Full height windows.
It's replacing existing full height windows. And let me see if I can find a photo.
Madam Chair, if I can add a comment, it looks like the plans say 2656 windows are currently there. So if they could confirm that, that would be great.
Yes, that is correct.
In the dining room?
Yes.
Yes, it's in the current dining room.
Okay. Are there any additional questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair, I have another question.
Okay.
So the plans, well, in the staff report, Josh mentioned that the new front door is going to be a 3.6 wide door. The plans actually, in the proposed plans, calls for a 4.0 by 8 foot tall door. Could you confirm what size door you want to put in there, because it's
3.8.
different than what was stated?
The rough end is 3.8. Column is 3.8 door.
Did you hear that, Chairman Costa?
I'm sorry, I did not.
We couldn't.
The rough end opening is a 3.8.
So it's gonna be about 3.6 door.
And then how tall?
It's 96, 8 foot rough end.
So you're increasing you're going to from a 6.8 door to an 8 foot tall door. And You're going from a 2.6 door to a 3.6 door.
Yes,
Correct?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Okay.
Are you replacing the siding at all for this project?
No, the siding won't be changed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any more questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much. I think we're done with our questions for now, but you'll have 5 minutes for rebuttal at the end of the hearing. Is the Registered Neighborhood Association here to testify?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Kate Henwood of 1116 North 12th Street. And I would say that our initial response to this was that with these proposed changes, the home will read the same. The general proportions and layout of the gable and the door and the stairs. So we're hopeful that this would be a relatively small change to a contributing facade, but that may be moot because we're not sure if the addition of this wraparound porch has rendered the home non-contributing. So that's a question mark, but yeah, not super sure on this one just because there are a few unknowns, but generally speaking, we do not feel that this will be a major change to the overall look and feel of this home.
Great. Thank you very much. Are there any last questions for staff? Okay. The applicant, if you're still there, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
Commissioners, I'm still here. Yeah, I just want to add that Jeff Wallace did talk to the North End Neighborhood Association representative when this application first came to light. And there was a discussion about the project, and there was no concerns expressed by the neighborhood association at that time. And again, we're hearing that tonight. And again, I would just touch upon the possible non-contributing nature of this home, given the extensive alterations. And the proposal really is to keep that front facade as it currently looks and not alter it all that greatly, and to keep the symmetrical nature of how the windows look in relation to the door. And that's really important with this home, to kind of restore the symmetry of the front facade. And again, given the non-conforming renovations to the current historic preservation code, the change to the windows from their current vinyl to metal clad wood would do a great deal to getting this home to where it should be as far as conforming with current historic guidelines. And that's all that really is being proposed to the outside of the home. The interior is what's undergoing the most extensive renovations. And with that, I'll conclude my presentation, and again, stand for questions if they have any.
Are there any last minute questions for the applicant? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I will go ahead and close the public portion of the hearing and consider a motion or discussion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to start out with a few things.
Okay.
My list is a little bit long, so I'll apologize ahead of time. I think it's great that the windows are being replaced and upgraded. I think that's going to be a great new addition. I'm a little bit concerned about the grid pattern that's in them, only because I couldn't tell in the historic photos if those were appropriate or not based on history. So maybe Commissioner Malloy would have an opinion on that. I'd be looking forward to that if you do. My biggest concern is the front door, because as far as the scale goes, they're suggesting a pretty significant change in scale. And Josh, I don't know if you could bring up the photo of the front of the house, please. There we go. Thank you. So a couple things on there. If you look at that photo, yes, the applicant's correct that the columns are not centered on the little peak on the front of the porch. Well, those aren't the original columns. And that placement of those columns, if you reference the historic photo, actually were directly underneath that gable. So that's my comment on that. On the front door, now if you were to widen that front door a foot and increase its height by 1 foot 4 inches, you've significantly changed the scale on the front of a contributing house. And it's, I'll read in the guidelines a number of different items that reference that. But it creates a challenge for the contractor too, in that they can't center that door by making it larger, because there's an interior wall just on the left side of that door as you're looking at the photo. So when they widen that door, it's going to have to go to the right a foot and then go 2 feet higher, or I'm sorry, 1 foot 4 inches higher. So then it really is offset with the peak on the porch roof, and it's offset with the stairs. So it creates quite a challenge, and in my opinion, quite an alteration to that gable on the porch roof. Right now, that gable on the porch roof is centered on the gable of the roof of the house, and it's centered on that vent. So the door itself changes the size, changes the facade, and then will require these rather what seem to be small alterations to the porch, but I think actually pretty significant. So in our guidelines, it does state, I think someone earlier asked the question about, I think it was at Commissioner Malloy, about it being all glass or needing to be wood. But in section 5.8 of our guidelines, it states doors are also an important character defining feature of buildings throughout the district. Original doors on houses from historic styles are generally divided into wood panels and glass. New doors should reflect these patterns. If you go back to the historic photo, it's a full wood panel door as far as I can see. It also states in the guidelines on page 30 that in no case should the new entrance be incongruous in size, scale, material, and color. Now, I took that out of the entrance and porches section of the guidelines, and that paragraph includes some other items and talks specifically about the porch, but I think it does provide a parallel reference to the entrance door. Just a couple other comments on section 5.8 of our guidelines. It says the proportion of openings on the street side facade, or more specifically, the relationship of width to the height of windows and doors and their placement along the facade, should reflect the same relationship along the street. And considering that front facade is actually quite narrow, when you widen the door, so the door will be wider than the windows that are next to it, I think that's a significant change. And then lastly, in 5.8.6 of the guidelines, it states you should provide doors of overall proportions similar to those used on buildings on adjacent sites. Now, I haven't looked at the adjacent site specifically, but a door of that size in a house and a facade of this small, in my opinion, does not meet with the guidelines. I'm also concerned with the height. I don't know how they're going to fit that in there, but the porch roof must be pitched underneath it. I do realize it is pitched underneath it, but it must be pitched enough to put an 8-foot tall door in there. That's my biggest concern. A third concern is the replacing windows on the side with a 7-foot wide patio door, because that does face a side street. This is a corner lot. So it's not on the back of the house, it's on the side of the house, but still faces the street. So that's a little bit of a concern. And then the argument of accessibility to widen the front door. there's already 2 3-foot wide doors on the house, and they're going to replace 2 windows with a 7-foot wide patio door, which means you have more than a 3-foot wide opening on a patio door to get in. So accessibility is not, unless I'm wrong, doesn't seem to be an issue. So those are my discussion points. Thank you for listening.
Great, thank you. Are there any other comments?
I'll comment on the windows. What they have currently, I think it was a 6/1. It should be a 1/1. So if we approve this, I would definitely suggest adding that the fenestration pattern be a 1/1.
Thank you. Any more comments? Well, I would just like to say that I do definitely appreciate switching out the windows from the vinyl windows that are on the house. I think that's going to add a lot to the house. And I agree that the 1/1 pattern should be maintained on the house. I guess we could, discussion would be, how do they address the sliding glass doors that they're wanting to put on the sides, because those, would have to be something different. But looking at this, what we were considering to be the historic photo, it looks like it actually was probably taken in the maybe 70s or 80s based on the cars that were there. So while I think it probably pretty much represents what the house historically looked like, it's not that old of a photo. But it appears to me in that photo that the little gable over the door actually is off-centered from the door, even in that picture in the columns. So I don't know if that's really an argument to center it, other than it feels like it, probably should be over the door, but then it won't match the roof line. But you probably notice the symmetry of the door more than the relationship to the peak of the roof. But I am in agreement about the door, the width and the size. I think we should maintain the proportions of the existing door. I think when you look at that in this older photo, it really adds to just the overall proportions of the house. And I think creating a much larger door and opening on there is going to actually change quite a bit the front character of the house, especially if it is a glass door. So I would recommend that I would like to see that be a solid door, as it appears it probably originally was, in the same proportion that it historically was. And I probably would be open to other commissioners' thoughts on moving the little gable over the door, if that's a concern, to leave it where it appears it probably historically was, or if we feel okay about moving it. But those are just some of my thoughts on that house.
Madam Chair, I echo your concerns. I think the gable over the front door should stay where it's at. I agree about the door size also. I don't think we should be enlarging that door any more than that was historically appropriate. And also having it a full panel door, not glass. It drives me crazy when I see a 1930s house with a full glass door. It's not appropriate. If you want a mid-century house, buy a mid-century house. But that's my thoughts.
Madam Chair, I have a question actually just for us. I mean, the sliding patio door on the side of the house, putting that in the place where the 2 windows were, do we have any comment on that? As far as, I mean, that's not something we generally approve, but does anyone have some points or reference for that?
I mean, Madam Chair, I'm personally, of all the things to be concerned about, those are like the 2 least things. Like if they want to have those, let them have it. That's kind of my thought. As long as, I mean, if we're going to make these significant adaptations to get this approved, I don't have any issue with them keeping those. And not to be redundant, but I pretty much echo everyone's concerns, and I'm in agreement. So, but yeah, I don't have any issues with those sliding doors.
I would agree.
I would agree with Commissioner Montoto that I think we need to change the front door. And so the sliding glass doors don't bother me so much. Like, once we're going to make those other changes, do it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. and Thank you, Commissioners. As I needed that.
Okay, would anybody like to make a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll give it a shot.
Okay,
I will move for approval of DRH 22-00123 with the conditions that the front door size is not changed, and if replaced, is with a full wood panel door, and also the condition that the porch roof on the front gable is not changed as well. And then a third condition that the light pattern for the windows is 1/1.
okay, do
That's
we
my
have
motion.
thank you. We have a motion from Commissioner Koski. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second from Commissioner Otter. Christina, please call the roll.
Otter,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Weaver,
Aye.
Montoto,
Aye.
Husky,
Aye.
Pape,
Aye.
all in favor, motion carries.
Okay, thank you. I would like to ask if we could just take a 5-minute break for a quick potty break, if you don't mind, and then we will resume in about 5 minutes. We have 2 more cases to hear after that. Thank you, everybody. with our last two items. The next item on the agenda is DRH 22-00135, item number 5, Jessica Ripple Philgate. Staff, can we please have the report?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. The applicant has proposed to construct a second-story addition on a single-family home in the Warm Springs Historic District, and it is a non-contributing structure. The property is located on the south side of Warm Springs, adjacent to Costin Lane, which is a private drive accessing a residential development behind. The proposed site plan, the second floor addition does largely follow the existing footprint of the home. There is minor additions proposed at the front of the home to enclose an entry that exists today, and then at the rear of the home would be expanded a little bit as well. Photo of the existing home. It was a little unclear exactly when it was constructed. The survey indicated 70s or 80s. But certainly non-contributing and outside of the period of significance. The applicant has proposed an extensive remodel and restyling of the home. Again, the second story addition of this on the structure and changing the style to French eclectic with a pyramidal hip roof, large chimney. The massing of the addition is out to the front of the structure along Warm Springs Avenue with a single story portion of the building remaining at the rear. Some perspectives showing the property. Again, the massing, that second story portion of the home out near the road, 2 garage doors facing the street, and kind of auto court accessing some area behind, and then again, and kind of showing the side of the property as well, adjacent to that Costin Lane, that private drive. So wanted to just kind of quickly address, there were a lot of comments in the packet about noticing. Wanted to specify how we notice and what is contained in those notices. So a number of residents expressed that they did not receive notice of this hearing. That is because the radius notice is 300 feet from the exterior boundary of the property. It does capture a portion of that residential project behind the property. It captures a piece of homeowner association ground. We did verify that the homeowners association was notified, contrary to some testimony that was received. And several of the affected parties that felt they were not noticed are actually outside of this 300-foot radius, is why they did not receive notice. Additionally, there were some comments about the time that comment is received or allowed to be received. On the postcard that is mailed, it specifies that testimony is due 5 days before the hearing. I think there was some confusion that notice went out after comments were required to be received, but it does specify right on that mailing that we send to the residents that that is due 5 days before the hearing, which would have been last Thursday is our cutoff for testimony. Wanted to clarify a couple of things there. But in conclusion, based on the guidelines and the character of the surrounding area, specifically Warm Springs Historic District has policies about the massing of structures adjacent to the roadway, that most large structures are set back significantly from the roadway. This proposal does bring that massing up front. It imposes on Warm Springs. For that reason, we find that the proposal is not consistent with the historic guidelines, and we have recommended denial. And I would stand for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Josh?
Madam Chair, no questions. I just would like to state on the record that I will be recusing myself on this item.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have one question for Josh.
Okay.
So as far as the notices are the comment that you commented on, they were sent out within the 300-foot radius, and that's confirmed.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Koski, yes, we did send notices per our policy, per the ordinance standards, which requires 300 feet notice with 15 days in advance of the hearing. Yes.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, I guess hearing none. Is the applicant present? Okay, please come forward. Say your name and address, and you'll have 20 minutes.
Hi, I'm Jessica Ripple Felgate from 1515 Warm Springs Avenue. I grew up in the house on 1515 Warm Springs, and I love the neighborhood, its history, and all the unique and distinguished houses that line the avenue. After moving away, I returned to Boise in order to raise my babies in the house that I grew up in and preserve the property in our family, rather than letting it go up for sale to somebody who might want to completely demolish the structure and then build something even grander on both lots and take away the integrity of the original house completely. As previously stated, the house is currently non-contributing and extremely plain, nondescript, with no curb appeal. My family requires more space and bedrooms than I did growing up as an only child. We chose to add the second story because it would remain on the exact footprint of the house and not add to it in any direction except up. The laborious process of planning and designing, we decided that the only way to meet our needs was to add a second story, and the only way for us to make it financially possible was to use the exact same footprint that has been in existence for decades. The aesthetic of the new exterior would elevate and enhance the existing structure and fit in seamlessly with the surrounding houses up and down Warm Springs. Although it will be new construction, we've been incredibly thoughtful about how to make the exterior not look modern, so it will add to the character of the historic district. We've spent years working on the plans to incorporate our love of the French aesthetic while using the same blueprint of the house. In no way does this affect anyone for the worse objectively. The facts remain that we are within code and we have designed a house that would enhance the neighborhood. The house would only create beauty and character where there is none, and a house to be loved by a family that has chosen to keep this property in the family and hopes to continue to raise more generations of Idahoans for years to come. I thank you for your consideration and time, and I yield my time to our residential designer, Noel Martinez.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you'll just state your name and address for the record, you can continue on with the time.
Of course, my name's Noel Martinez and with Studio Boise, and my address is at 231 Warm Springs Avenue, Boise, Idaho 83712. And yeah, Josh, do you have this? Use the clicker before. This will be smooth. So thank you for taking time. I know it's getting to be a late evening for all of us. I am the residential designer who's worked with the Ripple Felgates for quite a while now on the remodel and addition of their home. As the Planning and Development Services has acknowledged in their report, the submitted design complies with all of the zone's setbacks and height restrictions. The report also acknowledges that it is not a historic structure, which over the years I've been advised many times that makes it even inappropriate to imitate some of the more prominent architectural styles on Warm Springs that require amazing craftsmanship that we just don't have anymore. So I first want to address the topic of style. The French eclectic style of this remodel was chosen for three reasons. One, the homeowner's affinity for French architecture, which probably a lot of us can relate to, who doesn't love French architecture. Two, the existing boxy nature of the home and the stucco finish lend itself really well to the French eclectic style. And three, it is a style that is not well represented on Warm Springs that probably won't be mistaken for an imitation of an old home, but it matches the regality, the architectural quality and the impact of the historic estates on Warm Springs without pretending to be one of them. As I see it, the main feature in question is whether or not the scale of the proposed remodel is in harmony with the Warm Springs Historic District. And what I'd like to show you now is research and graphics that we have put together and looked into to show that it is in harmony and does contribute positively to the Warm Springs Historic District. And I hope that you'll see that as we've seen that in planning. In this first image, you'll see this is a map of the Warm Springs Historic District outlined in red.
And highlighted in yellow are all structures within its boundaries set approximately 30 feet or less from their Warm Springs property line. The Ripplefell Gates home will be 30 feet from the Warm Springs property line, with the main volume, that two-story volume, at the existing 33 feet from the property line. In total, approximately 32% of the structures in this historic district are equal or closer to Warm Springs than the Ripplefell Gates home. So the addition we propose does not make their home an exception or an outlier. It's part of 30-something%. That's part of a trend that's already present in this medium density zone. In this image, we've zoomed in the bottom right corner to the Ripplefell Gates lot in yellows, cut off a bit on the bottom, and surrounding neighbors. Each lot highlighted in a color has a coordinating street view image of that home. Take a careful look at these neighboring houses, the tallest and most massive of which are directly across the street from the Ripplefell Gates in purple and red. Again, we could see that the mass of their home is not an outlier, but very much in keeping with its fellow Warm Springs neighbors. Now, the biggest aspect of this, and I think what feels misleading because it is a grand style, when we look at flat elevations, we get an impression that's very different. You all know this because you've been doing this for a long time, but we get a different impression from what we do from the street. And I want to emphasize that as you've seen on the submitted elevations, the new total height of the home would be 30 feet. That's not the tallest structure on Warm Springs by far, but it is taller than the existing 18-foot roof peak. But I want to stress the difference of the impact between a hipped roof that meets 30 feet at the very center versus a gabled roof that reaches 30 feet. As you can see in the diagram on the bottom right-hand corner, at some point along the street, a 30-foot gabled home has a 30-foot tall wall. That's a big impact. But their home actually only reaches 17 feet and 5/8 of an inch on the wall, and then slopes steeply up from there. The Ripplefell Gates home, as you can see in the top left-hand corner, that peak that is 30 feet is actually only about a 5-foot distance there in the middle. And that peak is actually just over 49 feet from the Warm Springs property line and just under 24 feet from the Costin property line. And the Ripplefell Gates have made a very difficult to make decision for homeowners that I'm sure a lot of you know, to stick with and not change their existing 8-foot main level. They're doing a lot of changes, but they're keeping this, trying to be respectful of massing and keep this low. So they're maintaining the 8-foot ceiling on the ground level, and their second story addition is actually a 6-foot top plate. And then roof slopes up from there, making it less than the impact of a typical straight up 2-story, but still maintaining very firmly to that French eclectic style, which calls for some grandeur, some walls that come straight up, dormers and windows that line up beautifully on the home. The Ripplefell Gates will not be the first modern day non-contributing home to be tall, around 30 feet from the property line, and a worthy addition to Warm Springs. Here we see 2 examples that you have probably all passed and admired, as I have, on Warm Springs. On the left, the home was built in 1987. It's closer and taller. And the townhouses on the right were built in 1996. There are other examples, but I think these really show this is very much what we are also trying to achieve, something beautiful. Neither of these are historic. Both are tall, both are close to the street, and both beautifully uphold the Warm Springs Historic District's goals. This is a photo of the existing Ripplefell Gate home. And while it's very special to Jessica Felgate, having grown up there, it's one of my least favorite homes on Warm Springs. It's plain, it has modern type windows pushed to the corners. It in no way contributes to the goals of Warm Springs District. This image is the same photograph with the digital model superimposed and scaled as accurately as we can, which is fairly easy to do since the garage is actually not changing in scale, only getting a curvature over the dormers. Because of that held back second story, it really doesn't have the height and volume impact that I think the flat elevations give that. There's no doubt that this is a significant aesthetic improvement on what's there right now. It's an upgrade from quality materials to scale and proportion, and it matches and meets its fellow Warm Springs neighbors in that way. We really have spent time on this to be sensitive to those issues, knowing we're kind of locked into a building footprint that is closer than most large homes on Warm Springs are. And we just urge you to please let Warm Springs have this upgrade and let the Ripple Felgates and transform their home into this beautiful, stately, respectful home. I appreciate your listening.
Great, thank you. Was there anybody else that wanted to speak as well in your group? Oh,
I don't dare speaking after these two women because it's not going to be as eloquent. When we first moved here, we had aspirations of buying on Warm Springs, not thinking that our parents would ever get older. And as it turns out, over the last 13 years, I've gotten a little bit older and a little bit wider myself. Time doesn't protect anybody, but we actually looked at Christine's house. We looked at the other house that wasn't remodeled at the time. And when all the neighbors had a problem with that addition, my in-laws and me being there through a party to help get support and a feeling of neighborly love, for lack of better words. The one thing I do want to point out is between that time and this time, I started a business. And we had moved to a neighborhood in Avenue D. And we had to sell our home because I couldn't afford to keep the home and maintain the business. I give every one of my employees health care. I have 40 employees in town. I pay generous taxes for this town and for everything around us. I'm finally in a position where I can do something. I'm a little nervous. To meet the recommendations that Josh talked about is not affordable. And I can't wait any longer. I'm 48 years old. That's all I have to say.
thank you. And I'm sorry, could you state your name and address for the record too? I meant to have you do that when you started.
My name's Kevin Felgate and I'm not sure where we live, the house that we're doing or where we live now.
Where you live now.
1652 Sendero.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions for any of the three applicants? No? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. You'll have 5 minutes at the end for rebuttal. Is the Registered Neighborhood Association here to testify? Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 20 minutes.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Sheila Grisham, 1204 East State Street, Boise, 83712. Madam Chair and Commissioners, I am here on behalf of ENA tonight, but I will be turning over my time to the Warm Springs Historic District. Before I do that, however, I would like to address the issues of the application notices, since this was brought up in the Warm Springs Historic District comments in their written testimony. I would like to say that Greg Ostro and myself received these emails from the city, and we do forward the ones that are relating to Warm Springs Avenue to them. These emails, however, usually come on a Friday, and sometimes I don't get to forward them until Monday. And that's exactly what happened this time. Along with that, the mailing notices from the city were delayed either by the city or by the post office, which didn't allow for enough time for the comments, especially when you have several volunteers. 7 days just isn't always enough. And I just wanted to say, I heard Josh say that the 7 days wasn't a thing, but when we get our emails, that's what they say. We have 7 days to comment. And that after that, I don't know what happens, but that's what we're given. So this isn't on Josh. It's an issue with the process, and we would like to work together with the city to make it so that this doesn't happen again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And so now I'm going to turn it over to Lonnie with
Okay.
the Warm Springs Historic District.
Great, thank you. If you'll please state your name and address for the record, and we will continue the time.
Lonnie Purvis, 511 East Warm Springs, Boise, 83712. And Melissa normally does this. I think you guys know, so I'm just going to read the letter directly. Commissioners and interested attendees, I'm Lonnie Purvis, and I'm a board member representing the Warm Springs Historic District Association. Commissioners, you should have received our letter in your packet. If not, I can hand it out to you. I actually can't do that. Or you can read it if there's time. The decision you make here tonight is crucial to the future of the Warm Springs Historic District and historic preservation throughout the city. This particular half-acre property at 515 Warm Springs Avenue is located on a portion of Warm Springs Avenue with prominent and beloved homes, including many favorites, the Queen Anne home at 1504 Warm Springs Avenue, designed in 1899 by architect J.E. Torlesut. To summarize the letter, our concerns have to do primarily with how the new home would situated on the half-acre lot and its content in the middle of many historic homes. The overall height of the structure, including the high chateau-style roof, will dominate nearby historic homes. The comparatively short setback from Warm Springs Avenue on the north and even shorter setback from Costin Lane on the west of the property. By the way, this is a private lane along with a planting strip that is owned by the Warm Springs Hollow Homeowners Association. The overall height and setback combined would create an imposing and very visible structure on Warm Springs that is out of content with the surrounding historic homes. There would be nothing else like it in the historic district. Major street front remodels should blend into the existing neighborhood. Because of these reasons, we ask that you deny this application as proposed. We look forward to seeing a modified version of this plan. Thank you for your time and attention to this issue.
Thank you. I just have one quick question for you. If one of the comments is the encroachment to Warm Springs, and if I'm looking at the plans all correctly, the only thing that is making the house closer to Warm Springs is the porch and the front door that's added into the middle. If that wasn't there and it had stayed either flat with the front facade or indented like it was originally, that wouldn't be a concern, I'm assuming, with that
I think the
condition?
primary concern is the height.
Mhm.
Yes. That given the height and the fact that it's also close to both roads is primarily the.
Okay. Okay, are there any other questions for the neighborhood association? Okay, all right, thank you very much. Okay, are there any last questions for staff before we let the applicant come back up? Great.
Madam Chair, just a point of order. I just might want to see if there's members of the public that wish to speak.
Thank you. I am getting late. And we do have some members of the public signed up to testify. Well, Lonnie, you were on there. I think we just have one person signed up tonight, Chris Mckinney. Okay, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Chris Mckinney. I'm at 1522 East Warm Springs Avenue, just right across the street from the Felgates. And I'm just going to read the letter that we sent, my husband and I sent. We are writing today to express our support of the proposed remodel of the second-story addition of the resident located at 1515 East Warm Springs Avenue. We live across the street from the subject property at 1522 East Warm Springs Avenue. We received a public hearing notice postcard from the city of Boise a couple weeks ago, informing us about the upcoming public hearing and also discussed the project personally with our neighbor, Jessica Ripple Felgate. We have reviewed the plans for the improvements to the home and feel it is a beautifully well thought out plan that will vastly improve the existing residents and the Warm Springs neighborhood in general. While we understand that change is often difficult to accept for some, we believe the proposed remodel of this home for the future use of their growing family is appropriate and will be a positive change. We are not concerned about the height of the second-story roof line or the existing setback and believe the trees and landscaping both currently and in the future will soften any visual concern related to the second story. Finally, it is our understanding that Jessica grew up in the subject home and now planning to live there to raise her children in this long-term family home, a home that has some real family history. Again, we are in full support of this project.
Great, thank you very much.
I also have just a little letter from the neighbor to the left of the house. If I may.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Hello, friends. We live at 1607 Warm Springs Avenue. Our neighbors at 1515 Warm Springs have a proposal under consideration. We have reviewed the plans and believe the changes they propose will add to the aesthetic of the neighborhood. We endorse their plan and encourage the city of Boise to grant the Ripple Felgates all necessary permissions. Sincerely, Philip Richard Rayhill at 1607 East Warm Springs Avenue.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Do we have anyone online that would like to testify tonight? Okay. Okay, it looks like Annie Garrigan. Yep.
Yes.
Please state your name
Hello.
and address for the record.
Hello, I'm Annie Garrigan. I live at 1505 East Warm Springs Avenue. So I am the home across Costin Lane directly from the proposed changes. I would like to say there would be a significant effect on shade on my property. We get quite a bit of east light now. And I believe the home will actually be quite a bit closer to Costin than the drawings depict. I feel some of the drawings are deceptive. The angle showing a larger front yard, shorter roof than reality. We've lived here, we're in our 6th year here. We have a historically significant home that we have remodeled and renovated according to the rules and regulations of Boise, while the Ripple Felgates seem to be lovely people. And I understand their need to, have a home. There's also historic regulations, which we all have to abide by. And the house is simply too close to Warm Springs for the height that's proposed. They have a half-acre lot, which is a very large lot. It's twice the size of mine. And so I think they have some options. And that's really all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody else online wishing to testify? Okay, it appears we do not. Are there any last minute questions for staff? Okay, applicant, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
Thank you. I appreciate so much the comments in favor of this home, and I also appreciate those that are concerned. And I understand when you have a beautiful historic home, there's a lot of worry of what's going to happen with the non-contributing home across the street, because we've all seen a lot of crazy things happen with those properties that aren't locked into or don't have a basis to start from to respect an existing historic style. I do think that, again, it's true, flat elevations are deceptive. It really does make it seem like that 30-foot peak is right up on you. And hopefully the graphics I showed you help to explain something that you already know about a hitched roof, that height is far back, that the Ripple Felgates have been very sensitive to pulling that height down as much as they can while still respecting an architectural style that they've chosen and getting that extra space that they need. Also, I think there's great value in sticking to the existing footprint. With a double lot, there is a temptation, right, to just go for 50% coverage and just beg for approval, which happens a lot. And this is really respectful and considerate of them, I think, to hold back, to stick with the existing footprint, and to try to balance all those things. Their desire for a French eclectic the existing structure, the historic massing of everything around them. And so we just urge you to, again, please allow Warm Springs to have this upgrade. Last thing I want to mention, which is on the original documents that Josh had shown on the perspective images, half of that lot does have a grove of trees, which was like, I forget, the Tugley wood or something that Jessica used to play in as a kid. And it's bordered by a chain link fence, which is really inappropriate for Warm Springs. It's been there for, I don't know, I think forever. But that is also part of this. We're not just establishing a style and remedying the home. We're also pulling down that chain link fence, putting up a partial height stucco wall with a wrought iron fence above to create a garden wall that's consistent with the architecture, very consistent with the fences you see down Warm Springs. But again, we don't want to pretend and falsify a historic home. Thank you.
Thank you. I actually have a question for you. Because there seems like there's a little bit of confusion in some of the questions that the public has had. But if I'm looking at your plans, how you have them on your plans, the only direction towards a street that you're extending is to Warm Springs, some amount, I can't quite tell how far, but
3 feet
for the entrance, but you aren't expanding any towards Costin at all.
No, none at all. That's staying on the existing foundation line.
Okay.
And the amount that is moving forward, that 3 feet, it's single level, not even with a roof. It has a flat roof with a drain and coping. And the front door is not being moved forward to that point. That's actually held back
the
further.
porch.
Right.
Okay. Also the front door, but the front door is moving a little bit forward from
A
where it
little
is
bit.
right now.
Yeah, about 4 feet forward, I think
Okay.
it was. But still further back than that 2-story volume. So yes,
Okay.
how you read them is correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation too. It was very well thought out and very clear. Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry, Madam Chair, I have one question. There's a existing tree in the front yard. Is that being removed as part of this?
No, they don't plan to remove any trees. Her parents have done an amazing job. If you could see the garden on the other side of the lot, it's incredible. And they don't want to change any of that. They love that garden and the trees that are around the home.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, I will now go ahead and close the public portion of the hearing and consider a motion or discussion.
I'm a little torn on this one. I understand that Josh got the stuff in the mail on time, but it doesn't seem like from the letters that it really got to people on time or that they understood when they could comment appropriately. And so for that reason, I think I would actually defer this to allow for appropriate comment. I know we've had a bunch of people show up and talk, but I feel like there was enough commentary in those notes that it makes me feel uncomfortable doing something without letting everybody feel like they had enough comment period.
I guess just to comment on that, I could probably go either way. I mean, I hear your concern, but we did receive some late note commentary. So it did seem like if you maybe missed that or misinterpreted the intent of the notification, there was, some, possibility of sending that in. But if people feel strongly that didn't go smoothly this time, I'd be open to considering deferring it, but I hate to do that because it's a lot of work for everybody to come back another time and do the presentation again and just come and spend the evening here.
Yeah, Madam Chair and Commissioner Otter, that's a tough one. It does sound, based on the staff report, that according to city ordinance, stuff was sent out on time. I would imagine that portion of our city government has made a determination that how many days ahead of time that's sent out is based on everything from the post office to holidays and weekends and all that stuff. I don't know that for sure. So I'm gonna have to say, based on that, it was sent out on time and according to the ordinance, that I'm okay with that. I would also say too that, you know, I live in a, you know, we're all neighbors of somebody else, you know, we all have, you know, homes, and sometimes we feel we should have been notified and we don't understand that it's only a 300-foot radius. You know, we feel like it should be more, we don't get it. So we say we didn't get a notice when you never were going to get one because it isn't part of the ordinance. So I can understand the frustration and thought, but it sounds like the city did the right thing.
I guess I'll comment on the design since we're not
Please.
tackling that.
Go ahead.
I'm actually fine with the design. I'm fine with the height. The hip roof will go back. There are plenty of houses that on Warm Springs that are not set as far back as some of the other historic homes. And I'm glad you're not starting new, and I'm glad you're not tearing it down. I'm glad you're starting with the basis of what you have, because I hate when things go to landfill, even if they're not historic. I think it's a waste. So that's where I stand. I will support this application.
Thank you, Commissioner Malloy. Are there other comments? I will comment quickly, and I completely agree that you are attempting to save the house is great, and at least the shape of the house. And I'm a little bit unclear how much of the existing walls will be saved, but it's all it appears to all be in the same footprint, and I appreciate that. I'm sure the foundations are all the same, and I think that's great. I think that doing a style that's not found on Warm Springs is actually, makes it better, in my opinion, than trying to emulate some of the historic homes on that street. And I would also be in support of this application. Any other comments or thoughts?
Madam Chair, I would just say that I piggyback off of all those comments. I don't particularly have any issues with it. And I agree that the elevations are kind of, they definitely seem as though it's set far forward, but I don't have an issue with the height, the way that it's represented.
Commissioner Koski.
Yeah, I'm going to just reference one thing that is referenced in the staff report, just for reference for all of us. In the staff report, it states that generally larger, taller masses should have a larger than average front setback than the smaller structures. And it references 2.1.1. And, to read 2.1.1, it says maintain the average setback of historic properties on the block. Generally, larger, taller masses should have a larger than average front setback than smaller structures. So the way I interpret that is not as much the moving forward of the front entrance or footprint, but it's the fact that you're putting a taller, larger structure on an existing footprint that's already close to the road. So I'm torn a little bit with that, because the guidelines leave it up for interpretation there. And if this was a new house, I would say absolutely not. It's got to be set back to match the other setbacks of the taller houses close to the road. Now, the applicant obviously presented some other cases and photos on the block that showed taller ones closer to the front. But I just do want to reference that it is in the guidelines that taller structures should be kept to the back.
Mhm. Yeah, and I would completely agree with that. I think in my mind, I'm weighing keeping a lot of that existing house and structure rather than sending it to the landfill, as opposed to the opposite. The other thing is how tall it is, and I'm sure that we would have made that house set back further if it was brand new and they had torn down the house and built a new one. But in my mind, it's better to try and keep as much as we possibly can rather than to tear it down and build new, even if it maybe fits the guidelines just a little bit better. But as Commissioner Malloy pointed out, there are a lot of other houses that set back at the same distance, and that probably just adds a little bit to the eclectic nature of Warm Springs. So I'm fine actually with that height and being close to the road because they are reusing the house.
Madam Chair, I agree with you on that too. And I like the design. Good job on the design. Obviously, a lot of work was put into that. We see a lot of designs up here that are not very good, unfortunately. And I think this one was a great one. So,
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I came into this very negative on this house. I thought I was way too close and it was going to be too high. Your presentation was excellent. Definitely changed my mind on that. And I would recommend going and talking to the neighborhood associations and showing them that presentation. Even because they do feel like they got kind of left behind, it sounds like, and be worth giving them that shout out at.
So would anybody like to make a motion, or is there additional discussion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Commissioner Malloy.
Commission to approve DRH 22-00135.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second?
I guess I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Otter. Christina, can you please call the roll?
Otter,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Weaver,
Aye.
Koski,
aye.
Pape,
Aye.
all in favor, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have one last item on our list. It is DRH 22-00142, item number 6, Amy Algier. Staff, can we please have the report?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. The applicant has proposed to remodel an existing single-family home, which is non-contributing, and then add an ADU above the existing garage along the alley. The proposal is located at 408 West Pueblo Street near the intersection with 4th. So the site plan here, they have proposed, again, substantially remodeling that existing non-contributing home, constructing an addition on the rear, modifying the front porch. The item that requires commission review is the addition of the ADU above that existing garage along the alley. So the proposed ADU is depicted here. The applicant did, after conversations with Nina, submit revised plans shown here that eliminated a balcony on the south elevation of the ADU. There was a potential for some privacy concerns on the adjacent property that was eliminated. So you have here the north elevation facing the alley with that garage door and then the ADU above. The ADU is taller than the existing home. And that is something that we often see in situations where there's an existing single-story home. They're maintaining an existing garage, so to get the living space above that garage, extremely difficult, if not impossible, to make that the same height as the existing home. With that, we did recommend approval of the application. I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Josh?
Madam Chair, I do have a couple questions.
Okay.
It was difficult to see that it didn't appear that the drawings had any height on them. And if Josh, were you able to confirm the height of the existing house as proposed being remodeled, and then the height of the ADU, and possibly the applicant can answer that for us too. So,
Madam Chair, Commissioner Koski, yeah, I'll let the applicant address that. The height of the existing home, is confirmed to be 15 feet 4 inches. The detached garage ADU is clearly taller. Exactly how much taller, I think I'll let the applicant answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, great, thank you. Is the applicant present? Okay, thank you. Amy, if you could state your name and address for the record, and you have 20 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, I think you were quiet at first, but I think we can hear you.
Okay, my name is Amy Algeyer. I live at 1402 North 22nd Street, and I am the architect for this project. So it's late and I don't have a full presentation. I'd really like to just answer your questions. So Commissioner Koski, the height of the house is kind of a gray area because the site slopes drastically from left to right and from back to front. So it kind of depends on where you measure that house as to how high it is. When I measured at the back, the height of the house was 17 feet 6. The height at the front left corner, because the site drops down to is basically the basement grade, the height of the house is 23 feet 7. The height of the ADU is 20 feet 6. So it's somewhere in there. Something else to keep in mind when we're talking about how tall the ADU is, because this site slopes so much to the front, it drops off in the front yard. When you're standing on the street, you're about 10 feet below the main floor of the house, and then the house is above that. So being able to see that ADU from the street is really nearly impossible because the house is so tall in front of you that it will block every view of that ADU completely. And then that was the only question I heard. What other questions do you have for me?
Are there any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, Madam Chair, and Amy, you mentioned that you measured the height of the house is 17 foot 6 inch in the back. Staff report says 15 foot 4. So which is right?
Again, Commissioner Koski, because the slope, the site slopes from right to left, it would depend on where I measured and where Josh measured. So that house is L-shaped, and if I measured in the back left corner and Josh measured on the back right corner, that could very well be a 2-foot drop.
Okay, thank you. Josh, do you have a comment there?
Just a minor comment. I don't measure houses. That 15 feet 4 was listed in the application by the applicant. So that's all.
Oh.
Okay, thank you. Josh does not measure houses. Got that covered.
Let's be on record for that.
Thank you, Amy.
Are there any? I'm sorry, repeat that.
I was just asking if anybody had any other questions, but you were asking the same thing. So
Are there any other questions for the applicant? Everybody is shaking their heads here, so I think that we do not have any additional questions at this point in time, but we will let you know at the end if we do. Thank you very much, Amy. Is the Registered Neighborhood Association here to testify? Oh, looks like, okay.
Sorry.
Kate, thank you.
Yes, sorry, my screen froze for a minute. Sorry about that. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Kate Henwood, here for Nina at 1116 North 12th Street. And I just want to say that we do support staff's recommendation of approval. I've been by this house many times and went and stood in front of it and agree that due to the slope and how the house sits, it would be very difficult to see the ADU from behind. And we also really appreciate that the applicant and the homeowners did listen to neighbor concerns and modified their plans accordingly. So we support the application.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody else wishing to testify? Nope. Okay. Hearing none. Are there any last questions for staff? Okay, the applicant, if you'd like, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
We have no further comments either.
Okay, are there any additional questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and close the public portion of the hearing and consider a motion or discussion.
Madam Chair, I'll start discussion. I'm wondering, Josh, if you could pull up the front picture of the front of the house in the application. Yeah, I believe it's the first picture in the packet. So a couple things to note about this block. First of all, I'm leaning towards approval of this, but I want to point out a few things for us, the commissioners. There's 11. There's 11 houses on this street, or 2 of them are apartments actually. So 11, I guess, individual properties on this side of the street, and 9 of them are 1-story houses, and 2 of them are 1.5 stories. Across the street, there's 6 1-story houses and 1 2-story house. And across the alley, there's 6 1-story houses and 2 1.5-story houses. So the block that this is on is a very, I guess, short or small block from the street facing side. But if you look at this picture, you'll notice that the slope is so steep that it's almost like an exposed basement on the front of these houses. And on the second photo there, you can see that 1-story house also is, it almost appears to be a 2-story because of the exposed front of the house because of the slope. So normally what I would say, in a house that's going to be 3 feet, an ADU that's going to be 3 feet taller than the house, maybe be a little concerned about it. But I think based on the presentation and based on the photos, being that you're so low at the street level, you're not going to see that ADU. And I would probably be okay with the height.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, or would somebody like to make a motion?
I'd make a motion.
Okay.
I move to approve DRH 22-1-00142 based on staff's analysis and findings.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Otter and a second by Commissioner Montoto. Will you please call the roll?
Otter,
Aye.
Malloy,
Aye.
Weaver,
Aye.
Montoto,
Aye.
Koski,
Aye.
Pape,
Aye.
all in favor, motion carries.
Okay, great. Thank you. That concludes our hearing for tonight. Thank you, everybody.